Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Path to Managed Services Success. I'm Sarah Duffy, the Marketing Manager here at Intronis, and I'm happy to be moderating today's session. Before we get started, let's do some brief housekeeping. During the webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to share them using the questions or chat panel to the right of the GoToWebinar screen. We will be answering your questions throughout the presentation as well as at the conclusion. At the conclusion of the webinar, you will be prompted to complete a brief survey. Please take a moment to tell us what you think as we continuously improve the content and quality of our online events. Today, I am joined by Neil Bradbury, the co-founder and VP of Channel Development at Intronis. Along with Neil, we have Brent Fairbanks, owner of Electronic and Computer Specialties, Inc., and Corey DeGrandchamp, owner of Computing Technologies. This panel-style discussion will shed light on the opportunities that exist for you, as well as actionable ideas to help you achieve your immediate and long-term goals. Now, without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Neil to begin today's panel discussion. Neil, take it away.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. We understand that you have businesses to run, and we appreciate the time that you can give us to listen to our panelists. And I, by no means today, am the star of the show, but just by brief introduction, I'm one of the co-founders of Intronis. I've been involved with the business since 2003, and we were acquired by Barracuda Networks in 2015. And the same mission that I've always had to make sure that no business goes out of business for loss of their data continues today under the Barracuda name. And we at Intronis are the MSP business for Barracuda, helping managed service providers succeed in helping their small businesses do what they do every day. The true stars of this webinar are going to be Brent and Corey, and what I'll do is I'll start out with them giving a brief introduction of themselves, but I will reiterate again, what Sarah had just said during her intro, is please feel free to ask questions. We, of course, have questions prepared as a panel, but usually the best questions that we get are from the peers of Brent and Corey on this webinar. So don't hesitate to ask it. No question is silly. No question is not appropriate. If it's not appropriate, we won't ask it. I guarantee that. I'm kidding. But we also have time at the end for questions as well. So with that, Brent, why don't I introduce you? You're the owner of Electronic and Computer Specialties, Inc. out of California, and give a brief introduction of yourself and your business to get started.
Yeah, hi, Neil, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody today and to be on the webinar, first of all. I started off, opened up the business in 1986. Prior to that, I was working in the aerospace industry, and over the years, I've seen an awful lot of things change in the industry, and I'm very excited about what I see going on today with managed services and all of the different things that we're able to do with managed services and cloud computing today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Corey, why don't we give a quick introduction to you, and you're the owner of Computing Technologies out of Michigan.
Yes, thanks, Neil. So we have been a long-time break-fix kind of IT support, and we've really decided to make the decision to move more towards a managed service provider structure. It's been a long time coming. I'm sure a lot of the audience is in the same position as we were, and we've spent a lot of time researching different options and have started rolling that out across our client base. We still have a long way to go to finish that process. But hopefully everyone here can learn from some of our mistakes and some of the things that we've done right. And I'm sure we all shared some of the same questions that the audience has at some point.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. I think they're all interested to know what mistakes you made. They probably don't think you made any.
I think we've both made every mistake that you can make.
Oh, there you go. This is going to be an action-packed webinar then. Everyone's taking notes now. We'll go to the next slide, sir. So, the question, when you start with any webinar that we always get is, so what's in it for me? Is there really an opportunity here? Maybe you're a reseller on the line considering managed services. Maybe you call yourself a VAR, solution provider. There's many terms for channel partners nowadays. But here's one of the stats we were able to pull from Markets and Markets. They estimate by 2021 that the global managed services market will be a $242 billion market, and that it's growing at a CAGR, or a compound annual growth rate, of almost 11%. In definition of a pretty good market, I would say we're doing okay. Obviously Barracuda has invested in the managed services market with Intronis, and we believe that it absolutely is a growth vector for us. And for anyone on the line, I'm sure you agree. And Brent and Corey obviously have made that decision in their business as well. So, definitely a big market globally for us all to take advantage of. Another, I guess I would say, nonprofit or another organization that is near and dear to my heart is CompTIA. CompTIA, for those who don't know, is a nonprofit. It's the largest nonprofit IT association in North America. Anyone of your technicians might have an A+ or a Network+, same organization. But they also do research studies. They have a research team. They do public policy, but they also have great communities. Managed services is one of their communities. For those of you, and we have a question on this, and we'll talk about resources, but for those of you that are looking for getting involved in the community, or maybe you've got questions on managed services, looking to ask some peers, et cetera, CompTIA is a great resource, comptia.org. You can point your favorite web browser over to there. But in the study that they did, and this is from the 5th annual Trends in Managed Services report, over half the service providers that they surveyed predicted that in 2 years, 75% or more of their annual revenue will come from managed services, which is crazy, right? I mean, that's huge growth. They're literally transitioning their businesses with those type of statistics. And they also look at it as another 45% of the respondents expected to see managed services increase and account for at least half their total revenue in the same time period. So truly, a growth vector, whether, you're looking at market and markets, whether you're looking at CompTIA, and this survey is available. You can go to comptia.org and you can get your copy. And we've obviously only pulled a couple of slides out of it. So now my favorite thing here, and on the right-hand side of go to webinar, as Sarah, you saw her mouse scroll across, we want audience participation. We love to talk, Brent, Corey, and I, but we want all of you to vote here. So if you were to identify your business, and I used 6 different terms in my introduction, what would it be? Would you be an MSP, a VAR, maybe you're a hybrid, you offer both VAR and managed services, or other? And we'll take a minute there. And, Brent, I'll ask you, if you had to answer this poll question, how would you answer it?
I would be answering the question as an MSP. Maybe 6 months ago, I probably would have answered as a hybrid. But I'm really curious to see how this quick poll comes out here, aren't you?
I am. I'm getting excited. Corey, you have any predictions?
I think we're going to land on hybrid, and that's actually where we are still right now. We're in that transition phase to really convert the majority of our business over to managed services, but not quite there yet. I feel like that's where most people will end up being at. Gotcha.
I think Corey, Brent, actually saw the results. I do. I think he saw the results and answered my question, and that's why he answered that. But we're going to publish them now. Thanks, Sarah. So about 10% said VAR, 30% MSP, and then 55% hybrid. And Corey, when you went to go answer hybrid, why would you say you're hybrid maybe versus MSP or VAR?
For us specifically, we've really only targeted our largest clients that would benefit the most from managed services to start rolling them out, and we've gotten that done. And there's been some reluctance for some of the smaller clients that are just in the break-fix structure to really convert over. So we really need to be able to show them what the benefit is of the managed services, why they would benefit from it, the proactive approach to everything. We just haven't done that yet with everybody.
I got you. And Sarah, that's a good segue. Let's go to the next slide real quick. And, that's our panel topic number 1. So Corey, I'll stick with you. Where would you say you are on this path to becoming an MSP? And, what does that path look like for you?
For us, we started with managed antivirus services. We rolled that out to nearly 1,000 endpoints already, and that was kind of our springboard to get onto the managed services path, and then really to roll out an RMM after that and integrate with every client that we have. So we have most of the antivirus done for everybody, and we've only recently started finishing up some of our top clients to get them on the managed services platforms.
I got you. If you had to separate out, I know you separated out antivirus. It's actually funny. If you Google my name, or you look at some of the other things that are out there, I've always said that backup and antivirus, the security and the backup stuff is almost like a gateway to managed services, right? Because from a selling perspective to an end user, they kind of know they need it. Now, it's not always an easy sale, but at the same time, it's the objections. Usually most people going from VAR to MSP, they can handle those objections on the sales cycle side. On the antivirus side, that would say be one of your services. Would you break it down into other services? Do you offer 5 or 6 at this point? I know you mentioned RMM, but usually an RMM is, the control point for multiple different services.
Right. So our biggest ones are our antivirus and then the Intronus platform, obviously, which is why we're all here.
Well, thank you for that.
Beyond that, I'd say our other services that we offer, it doesn't necessarily tie 100% into the MSP platform, but we provide a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week emergency help desk service. During normal business hours, clients can normally submit tickets to us. We average a 7-minute response time to that. So to have that in our pocket, so to speak, to say, hey, look, this is how you're being taken care of now. And then if we push them towards, really getting them involved with the RMM, all the services, this is how we're going to be proactive to make it so you don't even need to submit those tickets in the first place. We're just going to have everything always taken care of for you. And then the other supplemental services that we offer to kind of get people on the hook, so to speak, we resell Office 365. We do Barracuda-based anti-spam services, stuff along those lines.
Perfect. Very cool. Very cool. So Brent, how about you? If you had to answer this question, where are you on the path to becoming an MSP, and what does that path look like for you?
I feel like we're a long ways down the path for becoming an MSP. We've got our packages have been defined. Something that comes along the lines with people and creating packages. Oh, are you doing things by user or by device? And something that I would like to mention is that I don't feel like I can properly split things out between users versus devices, because some types of things, for example, your Office 365 licenses are done by the user. However, your antivirus or your DNS mitigations or your backup, for example, is going to be typically done by device. So we're going to go through, and in our managed service offerings, we have our packages of things that are being offered in the package, and then the user can select what it is that they're going to be using out of these individual packages. Probably the first thing that we ever started doing, like in 1996, was to sell people email services. So people have already been used to dealing with us from a reoccurring billing type of a thing. Oh yeah, we have to pay Brent for our email and our hosting services and stuff. And about 5 years ago, I went to a client and saw that they had somebody else's backup software on their thing that they had gotten installed. And I thought, what the heck is this? This is a problem. So I went in and I got a spam from Intronus. I followed up on the thing because it had all the right things on there for me. The ability to rebrand myself and things like that, which I was interested in doing. And from that, we just go in and start adding in services to people, asking them if they're happy, and then start billing them for it. I've had very little resistance or pushback from people. Well, I shouldn't say that. For some of our hardware as a service, I just recently set out and did a service, a hardware as a service for somebody, and they questioned the total amount of billings that was going to be done on the servers. Oh my God, this is going to be $28,000 over the next 5 years. I said, yeah, well, let's take a look at the thing here. We've spent an average of 3 hours per month going through and just doing patches for your server. If you go through and you add all this time up over the last, 9-10 years that you've had these servers here, it amounts to significantly more than that. Here I'm capping it, and once we explained the costing and stuff like that to people, it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me, and that has what has eliminated my pushback from things. If I went in and didn't have the information initially, it would probably be a problem.
No, and it sounds like as you've gone down the path, as different objections have come up, you know what to do the next time, and then even, you mentioned hardware as a service, which is something that comes up, but it doesn't come up all the time for being able to provide more of a lease type option for hardware. My funny joke I was going to make as you were going down, where you received a spam from Intronis, I was going to say you received a gracious invitation to partner for an exceptional backup solution. But you say spam, I say tomato. Either way, it both works, but it's all good. But no, I appreciate that, and that's totally how I see a lot of the VARs kind of transitioning to managed services. So, Sarah, let's hit to the second point here, or the second panel topic. And let's see. So, from your perspective, what do you see as the most important differences between a VAR and an MSP? And Corey, we'll stick with you first.
Sure. I would have to say that the biggest difference is being able to offer those proactive services to the customer. Really, everything in a dashboard that we can report to them, all the patches, we're monitoring everything. We're monitoring the backups, the antivirus, the patches, web filters, anything that they want. We're managing all that for them. Personally, we have the ability to provide them with like a monthly report, a weekly report if they want it, so they can see the history of any outages that have occurred, how fast they were resolved, and really show them the benefit of having that proactive managed service versus the VAR or the break fix model.
Gotcha. Do you one of the comments sometimes come up with VARs versus MSPs, do you worry about the profitability of your managed service solution? And the example I give is, you go and you're a VAR and maybe you're going to sell a box or, sell a solution, you're, focus very much on the profitability of it. Is there still a component of that when you go down the managed services path?
There is, and I know we briefly spoke about it earlier in the week. I'd have to say the biggest mistake that I made originally converting over to the managed services model was I published pricing on our website that said, these are the tiers that we offer for managed services. This is what they include. This is the price. Unfortunately, nobody quite fits into those individual categories 100% of the time. They might want more of one thing, less of another. And we really needed to make sure that we were putting the correct pricing on the correct plan that the customer wanted and customize it to them. Everybody loves custom solutions. If we say we're going to do it just for them and take care of them as a customer, they love that. And that's one of the biggest things, is making sure that all those little pieces that add in to all those managed services, that we still have, our profitability in mind in the background there, to make sure that, we're pricing everything accordingly. It's attractive pricing to the customer, but it's also keeping us in business.
Gotcha. And in the other point I put was your proactive versus reactive. A lot of times as VARs are transitioning, but even from an end user perspective, being able to fix an end user's problem, before it even takes down their network. The tools that are available nowadays, being able to know that a hard drive is about to go bad before it does, and the new hard drive shows up at the customer site, and they're like, "What's that for?" And you're swapping out hardware before it takes down their network. I mean, you really we obviously put a price on it as vendors and as managed service providers, but knowing that the client knowing you have their back is huge, and really helps them focus on running their business versus worrying about IT. Brent, how about you? If you had to say, what are the most important differences, between a VAR and an MSP, what would they be from your perspective?
I'm going to agree with Corey, and the primary thing is being the proactive approach to things. Another thing that I have identified is being a real problem is the refresh cycle on hardware. When you're a VAR, people are tending to want to drag out the refresh cycle as long as they possibly can, which is generally not in the business's best interest. We're going through and we're adding extra life to the devices that they may not be appropriately, sized for and stuff like that. And I think that being an MSP, for example, with my hardware as a service, at the end of the payment cycle, this means that this item is going to be replaced. And so instead of that server being replaced at 8, 10, 12, 13, 15 years, we're replacing them at the 5-year mark and making sure that people's hardware does not go as out of date. So it stays faster, it stays current technology with things. And so those are the things that I feel like are important things for the differentiation between the VAR versus the MSP, and as the benefit to both us and to the customer between the two.
Interesting. Yeah. So you'd almost, one way to look at it is you'd almost say managed services would keep that hardware in service longer, but it's almost the opposite, because in order to maintain SLAs or in order to maintain the service that customer expects, they have to kind of upgrade that hardware on a more reoccurring schedule to make sure that they get the services that they would expect. And obviously you're motivated to do so because your profitability will get out of whack if you're really nursing those very, very old solutions along day in, day out. So it's absolutely a very, very good point.
That, and if you think about it here, people, it's a lot easier on the customer. The customer's monthly billing doesn't change as I replace the hardware. Yet as a VAR, I was constantly looking forward to those big $50,000 billing refresh cycles that I was going to hit on a customer, and that was a big expense outlay for the customer and whatnot. With the MSP style, their billing is very, very stable.
Brent, you actually touch on a point of hardware as a service, and do you do that for the majority of your managed service clients? A small percentage? How would you characterize, I guess, that how many of them are doing hardware as a service?
Every single one of them is doing a certain amount of hardware as a service, and as we go through and refresh the computers in the offices, I'm pushing people in the direction of, do you really want to own this thing? Do you really want to have this? How about if you just pay me this monthly fee for this particular thing, and it's covered. If anything happens, if it's stolen, if whatever the issue is here, you know exactly how much it's going to cost you. And when it comes time to refresh the thing here, we already know exactly the date that it's going to be. For a workstation, it's a 3-year cycle for us. For servers, it's a 5-year cycle. For infrastructure, it's typically a 5-year cycle for things. So that hardware refresh is something that people have typically avoided because it was that big expense. And with managed services, it goes away because there's no difference from 1 month to the next. When I replace the device here, it's not.
Oh, got a little audio issue there from Brent. He'll be back soon. So Corey, let me.
My phone rang and it tried to transfer to the headset. I had to shut the phone off quick.
No worries, Corey. Let me throw panel topic number 3 to you. What would you say is the top reason, if you had to pick just one? And we've gone over a few already, but what is the top reason to consider transitioning from VAR to managed services?
Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit and say 2 of them. One of them is to make sure the client's taken care of better. It increases that relationship that we have with the client, makes them feel they're better taken care of. But number 2, which is maybe most important to me, is the fact that we have predictable income at that point. We know exactly what we're going to bill. We know what the invoices are going to be. We know how fast we'll get them turned back in, get payments on them, everything like that.
Yeah, so from a business owner perspective, it's a totally different way of running the business. I mean, the first of the month rolls around and you're just looking at the bank account, and now you just got to either make up the difference or, if it doesn't all cover it. But, I've always heard that, one of those milestones as a managed service provider is when you can walk in on the first of the month and all your fixed costs are covered, all your employees and everything based on managed services revenue. you're in a really good spot and smiling for the next 30 days.
Definitely.
Cool. How about you, Brent? What would you say was the top reason?
It's definitely, it's for the cash flow situation of things. It levels, it enables me to have predictable income, and it enables my customers to have predictable expenses. And that is the benefit to both people. I'm a big believer in anytime I'm in business and doing anything, everybody has to win. My vendors have to win, I have to win, and my customers have to win. Otherwise, there's going to be a problem in the deal somewhere, and it's going to be something that's that I would prefer to not have to deal with.
Gotcha. So the next question, and you could word it, challenges or mistakes to avoid. Either you can answer it either way, but Corey, I'll go with you first. Again, what challenges do you see for a service provider or VAR to making the transition? This is where we help everyone on the line kind of avoid a mistake.
Absolutely. I mentioned it a little bit already about us publishing our pricing. That was a mistake on our part. We thought everyone was going to want one of those 3 tiers, and it turns out some people did, some people didn't, and we had to really customize it. And they were wondering why they weren't getting the price that they thought they should get based on what they saw on the website. But beyond that, one of the things that we ran into is we almost let some of the RMM providers out there almost strong arm us into signing up with one of their services. They kept, hey, if you sign up in the next 2 days, we'll give you this discount or that discount. Well, I hadn't really done the demos and really done the research on all the other competition out there. And I almost fell into that and said, sure, sign me up for this one or that one. And we wouldn't have been making the best decision at that point. So some advice I would say is really do the research, demo anything that you guys are thinking about getting into as far as RMMs, PSAs, your help desk software. Really give it a go and try it out and use it for a few days internally and see how it works out for you. And if you don't like the software, you don't like the service, you don't like their tech support, don't go with them, because someone else is going to do the same thing at the same price or even better.
Except, of course, when it comes to the solutions from Barracuda.
Well, right. I mean, honestly,
I'm kidding with you, Corey.
No, really though, I can touch on that just a little bit. We went through a number of different backup providers, and this is when I was still a little bit new to starting to sell this whole cloud backup thing to our customers. And the old owner of the company that I own now had some previous correspondence with Intronis, and when he left and exited the company and I took over, I kind of saw that email there and I thought, I should follow up on this and really see what it's all about. And we demoed it, and me and one of my senior technicians took a look at it. And within about 2 days, we knew 100% that every client we have has to be on this platform, because nothing else we had before that came even close.
Awesome. You got to get the sales pitch in there somewhere. We don't have our sales pitch slides in this deck. It's just a panel discussion. Brent, how about you? What challenge do you see, for a service provider, making this transition? And maybe it was a challenge that you experienced a few years ago, but, if you had to pick out that challenge.
I guess one of the things that I would make a point of is, let me agree with Corey with some of the things that he had mentioned too on there, going through and maybe not going through and vetting out things as fully as I should have for things and whatnot. Something that I think that people can go through and do is to try and just, when you're making the transition, I've seen a lot of people who it's like they try to flip a switch. Okay, yesterday I was break fix, I was VAR, I was whatever. Now today I am this, and I for me, that's difficult for me to make such a transition so fast. Also, I feel like my customers don't necessarily understand things quite so fast. So I like the idea of kind of how I did things, where I started off with 1 or 2 things like a backup. Intronis was the first managed service tool that we purchased. And the thing that sold me on the tool was that I handed the tool over to some really incompetent people, and they were able to be very functional with the thing without a whole lot of assistance from me. And I thought, okay, this is a really good sign here for this. So when you're making the transition, it's okay to start with one or two things at once, and then just start walking people up the ladder of generating the revenue that you want and migrating them out of an hourly type of a situation. That would be the advice that I guess I would make for service providers that are trying to make the transition right now.
Absolutely, and that's a good point. I'll make my joke on this question too and say, hope none of your employees are listening to this panel discussion at this point in time. And
it was not the employees, it was the customers. Oh, okay. I actually handed the thing over to some customers who, quite frankly, they would destroy anything that you gave them. And I thought, this is a wonderful chance for me to see how robust this thing is. Here you go, guys.
Okay. Perfect. Well, let's go to the next panel topic. And Corey had touched on this, but Brent, I'll let you go first because I'm always picking on Corey. What would you say would be the top tools that an MSP needs that maybe a VAR doesn't use or doesn't need?
I think that the most important thing is to have an RMM tool and a PSA tool. The RMM is going to give you the ability to have insight to things and give you proactive things, notifications and stuff like that. Have I lost connection? Is disk space low? Am I using up too much RAM or something of that nature? And then it's also with the MSP model, I feel like it's very critical for us to pay a lot of attention to every minute of our time. And that's where your PSA is going to come in and assist you with making sure that you are profitable with each one of your clients. You don't want to have 100 clients and then finding out that 98% of them you were losing money on and only 2 of them you were making money on, but you were making enough money on those 2 that you imagine if you were able to fire 98% of your business and make 100 times more revenue. So that's my advice.
No, that's a good point on those 2 tools. And just for anyone who doesn't know, PSA is Professional Service Automation Tool. It's kind of the CRM for an MSP. It does aggregates billing. It integrates with a lot of the different tools, such as Intronis. It'll keep track of all your technicians' time because time is money, especially in the managed services world, as Brent had said. And then RMM is remote monitoring and management. It is the device aspect of managing and monitoring a device, maybe looking at the event logs, looking at the antivirus solutions deployed, et cetera. It allows you to be, if you've got 1,000 endpoints, it allows you to be in 1,000 places at once from a single console and make changes and deploy software and know about problems your clients are having before they ever happen. So, Corey, let me turn it over to you. And what do you think is the top tools?
Yeah, I'm gonna absolutely agree. I think that's kind of what everybody would say at this point. Definitely an RMM to get everyone on the same page. All your text, like you said, can be in 1,000 different places at once. It's invaluable to have access to all that stuff, no interaction from the customer, get alerted as soon as there's an issue and take care of it. And then PSA for us wasn't as important to start out, but it's definitely there. We needed that RMM tool first and then followed up with the PSA after that. And there's some options out there that are integrated and do both, and that could be a good fit for people as well.
If you don't have a full-blown PSA, because I tend to, if we look at internal statistics that, we gather, larger percentage, it's fraction, it's singular percentage points, but, have an RMM versus a PSA, what could someone use or what functionality of a PSA is being used, Corey, to start that, over time you need to add more, but what's kind of those first few things that you need that maybe you can supplement with another tool?
Yeah, for quite a while, we had used a free option out there that provides help desk, allows customers to email in a ticket, allows us to generate tickets and track them to completion and stay in communication with the client. And most importantly, it tracks the technician's time spent on every issue. And then allows us to kind of pull reports and send them to clients as needed as well.
Gotcha. So ticket management and time management are those 2 big ones that you need to kind of get a handle on first, and then the other stuff is the advanced class, the 201 and the 301 classes. Got it.
Right.
That's cool. Well, I know the audience is excited because guess what we have next? Oh, it's a panel question. So, or a poll question for the entire audience. So, if everyone could just take a quick moment here and answer this: do you currently have an RMM tool? Yes or no. This is a simple one. So we'll give everyone 15 seconds. We obviously know that Corey and Brent both have one, and they both have a PSA here. I'm not going to ask Corey how he thinks it's going to come in because he can actually see the poll question being answered this time. I fell for that trick last time. So Sarah, let's go ahead and publish those results. Awesome. Wow. Yep. So this is pretty much what we thought, right? So about 80% actually have an RMM tool already, and about 20% don't. Very, very cool. So for those of you that don't have one on the line, quick Google to RM remote monitoring and management, and we have another couple of questions coming up with Corey, Brent, and I. But question number 7, I believe, that we'll get to is kind of resources and stuff, and Corey will throw out some cool things you guys can go and look and do some research. So on panel topic number 6, and Brent, I'll start with you. What advice would you give someone looking to go and add, managed services if they're a VAR and they're looking to get started?
The first thing that I would make a suggestion on is to look for or to get some type of an RMM type of a tool. If you're going through and you're doing support for people, you look at something that's a one-time support type of a tool. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but let's say, for example, you're using like a LogMe and Rescue or something like that. Usually the cost of going through and having an RMM tool is similar to what these one single use type tools are. And for me, the cost of my RMM tool, if I can save 1/2 of a truck roll per month, it has paid for itself. And so go through and think of what you can do to eliminate costs. Traveling is not a real profitable thing to do. So if you can do something to help eliminate that, that's something. And also your customers will start looking at it going, wow, they're able to respond to me in a much more timely fashion than when I had to wait for them to actually drive here.
Gotcha. And this is a twist on that same question, still for you, Brent. So, you had you were a VAR, right? Many, many years, and you had a whole Rolodex of clients. I think it's over 600 clients we published, on the overview or the bio slide.
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide which client to go to and talk to first on managed services? Was it, and I'll give you some, did you throw the RMM in there and say, hey, I'll see you in 30 days and I'll show you how, you'll be wowed? Did you have a conversation with maybe one of your clients that had the most amount of billable hours? Kind of, if you could size that for me, like how did you go about even having that, figuring out who to go after for managed services within your existing Rolodex?
I wish I could tell you that I followed some type of an exotic scientific process and I'm a real smart guy, but this is basically what I did. Is the next time somebody called, I went through, I loaded up the tools onto their machines, and and as Corey had alluded to, you typically have to buy more licenses than what you need for things. So for me to go through and to throw a license onto somebody's machine, it doesn't cost me anything else per month. But now I'm able to go through and to start providing a better service for the customer. And if I can go through and show them a remediation over the line a couple of times, then they start getting upset if I don't start doing it that way. And when it comes to, like I said, coming through and who did I choose? When the next company called, I went out there, I loaded things up.
Gotcha. No, and you know what? And I don't know if there is a perfect way to do it. I'm sure there's someone that's written a best practice, but if that works for you and you're still in business X number of decades later, then I would say stick with that strategy because it worked. So absolutely, that's awesome. Corey, how about you? What advice would you give a VAR, looking to add managed service?
I would definitely reiterate the fact that, you really need to test out and sample and get on the trial periods for an RMM to find one that's going to work for you, your technicians, your team, and your customers. and what's going to be the best product for them and platform for them to be a part of. And beyond that, I would go as far as saying, to touch base with the question you had asked Brent, we kind of targeted our biggest clients with the most offices. We have one that has, I think they're opening their 23rd office within the next month or two here. And so they were one of the ones that we went after right away, because the traveling to all those different locations when it was needed was, like you said, it's not a profitable thing to do at all. So we targeted them first, and we really showed them the benefit of what they could see from that, what they could expect from our team moving forward, and how it would really help them. And we've kind of taken some of their metrics and showed that to other clients after we had that initial success and said, hey, look, here's a similar client that we had. They're a little bit bigger than you, but these are the kind of metrics and numbers that we're allowed to share and show you. And that really wowed some of the other smaller customers as well.
You almost made like a case study out of that first customer that went across the line, and you were able to use that, in discussions with other customers.
Correct, with permission from the original client, of course.
Of course, with their name crossed off, et cetera.
Right.
Now, do you do most of the sales for your organization? Do you have a salesperson? How does that sales process work?
I am the salesperson right now. I am the sole salesperson. Hopefully that will change at some point, but that's the end goal, I'm sure, for everybody here, is to keep growing bigger and expand the team. Awesome.
Do you have a goal internally of how many, managed service clients to add a year, add a month? How do you measure that?
Not currently, because we're still in the process of really trying to get all of our existing break fix clients converted over, or as many as we possibly can. So I don't have those yet. Those will be coming in the next 12 months or so.
I gotcha. Now, do you service your break fix clients before or after your managed service clients? And, I'm sure that's part of the discussion that you have as part of the sales process with someone that's, going down managed services versus their break fix. Internally, I'm sure you prioritize them differently, but if you could kind of address that or speak to that just a little bit.
Yes, anyone that's been on the break fix structure, they've known for quite a while that they don't get the priority support. We're lucky enough that we have a great team that we're still averaging 7-minute response times to everything for everybody through 24 hours a day, which still blows me away that we've been able to hit those metrics time and time again. But yeah, if there was an emergency issue at 2 different clients at once, we had to take care of them. The person with managed services would be the top priority, just simply because they're easier to work with through the tools that we have.
Yeah, you can usually resolve the problem faster too, right? Because you've got the answers right in front of you. Absolutely. So let's go to our next question, Sarah. And this is actually one of my favorite ones. This is where I'll plug the Intronus blog before one of the panelists does. But yes, it is an Intronus run blog, but there's a ton of industry news that is on there about different vendors and different things that are happening in managed services or resellers, communities, et cetera. So if you haven't pointed your favorite web browser to blog.intronus.com, feel free. But, I guess I'll turn this to Corey. I'll let you go first on this one. What resources do you use to stay up to date on trends and opportunities in managed services?
I'm sorry, were you asking me that first?
I was, Corey. You're on.
All right. I know one that Brent's going to say, so I won't steal that one from him. You already mentioned blog.intronus.com. I actually subscribe to the emails for that. Just, hey, if an article's interesting, cool, I'll bookmark it. I'll check it out later, maybe when I've got some more time. It's not something that is, obtrusive to the inbox or anything like that. I find most everything that comes through there is fairly helpful. And helped us get started and really springboard forward into those managed services. And then another one that I frequent and I check out quite a bit and interact with the community as well is there's a subreddit for MSPs. So it's reddit.com/r/MSP. And there's just a bunch of great people there willing to help out newcomers to the field. And even, the old school guys that are experts that have been doing this for years and years. Sometimes they have questions too and need a fresh group of users to answer that for them. So it's back and forth, people answering questions, asking questions, looking for recommendations. And it's been great for us to check that out and go there for resources.
Yeah, it's been cool to watch over the years how that Reddit group has grown, and some of the details that some of the partners put up there or the managed service providers put up there. They're very, very transparent, and sometimes they'll say, hey, direct message me, et cetera. But they're very, they're helpful. With any, obviously, crowdsource thing, you got to be careful, taking everything they say is black and white. But from whatever I've seen, they're just trying to help. There's also, I think one on Yahoo, there's a Yahoo group, for managed service providers as well. And I won't feel, go ahead. Sorry, Corey.
Oh, I was just going to add one more in there. Spiceworks is a free help desk software that's out there in inventory management, but their forums are pretty great too. There's thousands and thousands of IT professionals on there. And usually everybody's very, very willing to help each other. They have different groups. So if you have an issue with a Microsoft server, you post there. If you have an issue with backup, there's a backup group. So you can kind of target your audience and find an expert in that field and get some good answers from them too.
Very cool. Very cool. And Brent, how about you?
I don't want to make it sound like I'm an advertisement or anything like that, but I really do want to compliment you on the Intronus blog. It's not just Intronus on the thing here. There's a lot of very industry vendor technology agnostic information in there that I feel like is really good information. Of course, there's a lot of Intronus stuff on there and stuff like that too, but it really does help to help see a broad spectrum of what's going on. And I got to compliment you on that particular resource that you're offering to us. The information that I get the most of is from Robin Robbins and the Technology Marketing Toolkit. I get about 60 to 80 emails a day from people just like me who are posting questions about all kinds of things. Hey, did you have an employee who didn't punch in on time? Hey, do you have a problem with backup? Hey, are you having a problem with Exchange? What are you using for your insurance? Does anybody know a lawyer for, and it's specifically on managed services. So that's one of the biggest pieces of information that I get. I'm a member of the IAMCP, and that's the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners. We have a meeting once a month where I actually go and meet with a room full of about 80 people just like me, and we talk about what's going on, and we also kind of do some networking. And if there is technology that I might have seen a sales opportunity for, I can partner with one of the other people in the IAMCP group to help me to fulfill something. So that can help me to appear to be bigger and more powerful than what I truly am on things. So those are two things that I think are really good. A third one, let me throw this out there, SMB Tech Fest. I have met some of the industry players out there that a lot of people, I believe it's from third tier, everybody is following their instructions on how to do best practices for some of the encryption software and stuff like that, and got to meet Amy Babinchuk there. And a lot of the people who are little hidden players behind the industry are there at that particular organization, and I can't recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, no, and I would agree with all the stuff that you guys have listed, and then for other stuff, for people that are attending, Robin Robbins is great. She has an event quarterly, but she also has a big event coming up in a few weeks in Nashville. So there's an event component, but then there's also, Brent had said, there's the forum component where she has actually on staff, people that have worked at an MSP that have been there, done that type of thing. There's another group called ASCII, and ASCII does have regional events, about 9 within North America per year. So, there's usually one that's within a driving distance of a major metro. And it's a very small fee.
I was just at the last ASCII event, and that was a fantastic event. One of the speakers that they had on there this time was Frank Abagnale from Catch Me If You Can. What an inspiring speaker.
Awesome. And we did not practice that for everyone on the line. There's also other ones, just to give everyone the true methods. is like Robin Robbins. You will see there's HTG. There's a lot of different groups that are out there that if you have a successful business, you're looking to do managed services, that you can go and attend, find an industry event near you, or find an online forum. I also typically I'll show up in an area, go to a vendor lunch. Intronis has lunches, but there's a lot of vendors that have maybe a lunch or an event near you. Go to the event and you'll see all the competitors that are around you. But I always look at that as co-opetition. It's very unlikely that you two are going after the same deal. In a smaller town, you might be just two, but typically you'll find your peers that are very, very close. You didn't even know they existed, and you'll gain a friend out of it and someone that you can help leverage within the local community. And then kind of that other piece of it is, which I mentioned vendor, events, but reach out to vendors. Someone like Intronis, we've got our entire marketing portal that's got marketing collateral and sales collateral. But for all the other RMM vendors that were mentioned and the PSA vendors, they have those types of tools as well. So don't underestimate getting stuff from the vendors that you're already paying money to on a monthly basis. So let's head to the next slide. And for those, just as a quick reminder, there is a question panel on the right. We are going to do another poll, by the way. But there is a question panel on the right. We're going to have a few minutes, I believe, for questions here at the end. So, if we've sparked any questions, I'd love to hear them, and we'd love to get them asked by our panel here. So the last poll question is, would you be interested in a program helping VARs effectively add managed services? So maybe of that 20% of people that didn't have an RMM already, you may be an MSP, but you might be a VAR. If someone like Intronis Barracuda was to come out with some helpful program, would that be of value to you? And everyone's answering, and I would say, I would ask Corey and Brent, who they would go to, what vendor they would go to, but they're both going to say Intronis, so I'm not going to ask them that because it'll look like I planted that question. It looks like we've stabilized, Sarah, so let's publish. Awesome. And yes, this was for internal, but yes and maybe tell me more is exactly the two answers that we were looking for. So stay tuned. In part of the follow-up items from this webinar by attending, we obviously get your email address and more details to come there, but you get a nice little teaser based on an audience poll. So we'll go to the next one. So a few takeaways just to summarize as the questions are coming in, and we've got a few. Plan. And this came up as we were preparing for this webinar. You need to know where you're going. And, some of the questions I asked is, if you've got a Rolodex of customers, which ones are you targeting? Do you have a set profitability? Do you have a goal to have X amount of your customers converted in 2 years out? Do you have a monthly reoccurring revenue goal that you want to get to? Having a goal and then having a plan to get there is of the utmost importance. You can try and fiddle your way through it, but like any small business owner, you've been there, done that, that you kind of need to have a plan to get there. And obviously there's a lot of resources out there to help you if you need to. Think about your value proposition and then create a service offering that aligns to it. So, Corey, for example, has a 7-minute response time, and he managed to bring that into the webinar 3 times without even realizing it, right? So that is within his mantra. That is within his differentiation that he goes about differentiating his business. What's your differentiation going to be? What's going to differentiate you from the guy down the street that's possibly doing some of the same things? And if you look at what Brent did, in the beginning, it was all about hardware as a service, which is huge. Not all MSPs do it, but the ones that do it swear by it, as Brent does. And there's a huge revenue opportunity for that. And then leverage all the educational resources. And when I tell you there's a ton of groups, there's a ton of stuff that's freely available. I mentioned again, CompTIA. Go out there, research, grab a friend, find out what they do. We're going to put up our contact information at the end. More than happy to answer questions by email, and obviously call into Intronis. We'd be more than happy to help. But don't hesitate to go and leverage all those educational resources that are out there to help you. So let's go to the next slide here, and we've got one question. Let's see. Got it. All right. So I'm going to read this, and Brent will give you this question first, if you don't mind. So in your opinion, what is the ideal percentage split between reselling versus managed services in terms of revenue and profitability? You know, if you look at your business, or kind of what's your goal and where you want to go?
What are our goals?
Well, if you had to look at a business, so do you think that the ideal business such as yours should have 50% managed services and 50% reselling VAR? Do you think it should be 80% MSP, 20% VAR? You know, is there an ideal percentage that you think makes the most sense?
What I feel like is realistic for our business is about 80% is going to be managed services and 20% is going to be project work. People ask us to write software to create circuitry to interface a machine or something like that for things that is not really something that you typically repeat for things. And we get enough of that. And me as an engineer, I enjoy that. I think it's fun. And so I like to take on those additional projects and things like that. But for us, it's 80% MSP, 20% project work.
How about you, Corey?
I would kind of have to echo that a little bit. I don't think, I mean, we've all probably have seen, you know, the blog post or, you know, advice from someone that says, oh, 100% MSP is the way to go. But I don't really think that's feasible for most companies. I'd say 75 to 80% managed services is going to be great for us. We don't do hardware as a service, so we still have some of our revenue source from selling and providing that hardware, workstation, servers, network equipment, everything like that. So I'd say 75, 25, 80, 20 would be my goal personally.
Perfect. Very cool. And Corey, I'll stick with you, and because you just spoke, you know, how did you go about coming up with managed service agreements? Was there a template that you got somewhere? How'd you go about agreements? Because the agreements are a little bit different, as we're getting asked, you know, from an MSP versus a VAR.
Right. As far as like service level agreements and what's included with the managed services, we've got templates from the RMM that we signed up for. Actually, they had pretty much most of it ready to go that we could just rebrand, tweak a couple of words, look it over for, you know, any legal issues that could possibly be in there. And we didn't see anything. And we thought that those were pretty much great to roll forward with right off the bat. And then as far as like helping to market that stuff, is at least with Intronis backups, they have a lot of stuff in the portal that allows us to really take a pre-built email and send that as an email blast, or our backup page on our website. If everyone wants to take a look at that when they get some time, that's pretty much straight taken from one of the resources that Intronis provided. They had all those graphics. I changed the color of them a little bit. All those stats were there. The sources were included. And I built that backup page in about 5 minutes because Intronis had done all the legwork and provided it for us.
Very cool. Very cool. Brent, how about you on the, you know, agreements and stuff? Maybe there's a VAR that's listening today and is like, well, you know, buying a tool is easy, but, you know, what about the agreements and how to do all that? Is there, you know, any tips, tricks, or kind of how you went about that?
Yes, the way that I went about doing that was from Robin Robbins. I purchased one of the products from her called the Managed Services Blueprint, which is basically a step-by-step kit for moving you into the managed services arena. It includes some of the contracts, marketing collateral, website stuff, all kinds of things on there. But it was from Robin Robbins.
Got it. Nope. Totally understood. Corey, back to you. One question, and this is a Neil question, but one question for you is how, what type of reporting do you show your clients, and how often to kind of justify your value? Because honestly, at the end of the day, if you're doing everything you're supposed to, the client never knows you're there because you're kind of making it all happen behind the scenes, which is good and bad. But, you know, how have you worked through kind of that opportunity / issue?
Yes, that is a great question. We struggled with that a little bit when we first got started. So right now, I give any customer that wants it access to the Intronis dashboard so they can log in and see their backup status in real time and how they're faring there. We also use the executive summary report that Intronis provides. We've offered that to clients and let them tell us if they want it or not. We've shown them a sample, and some of them are good with what they have and they don't need to see that extra, you know, at the end of the month. Hey, look at, you know, we had 2 failures over this month, but 800 successful backups. Some of them just don't care that much, but it's there for those that do want it. And then as far as the rest of the managed services goes, our dashboard that we log into, we can create a client account and give them access just to view only info about whatever that client is. And we can actually set them up with a password. They log into the branded dashboard and they can see the same results and checks and metrics that we see and use for reporting. They can log into that and look at it whenever they want, or they can just sign up for like a monthly or weekly email alert as well. That kind of aggregates all that data in the one email, one report, and sends it out.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you for that. And we have hit the top of the hour. So I would like to thank Brent and Corey for all their valuable wisdom that they provided us today. I hope that everyone took at least one tip or trick or idea away from this webinar, and if you can do that, it was an hour well spent while eating lunch. Our contact information, including mine, is on the slide. Feel free to, if you do have a question, to let us know. Also, if it's just a general inquiry, feel free to hit up sales@intronus.com. We're more than happy to answer any questions we can on any of the Intronus MSP Solutions by Barracuda products. So, Sarah, did I forget any signing thoughts? Or on behalf of Sarah, Neil, Brent, and Corey, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And Sarah's quiet, so I did a good job. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon.